Hi everyone, it's Helen here from Bodywork-Pilates, and here's a little Pilates based workout just to ease out some of those tensions, those tightnesses, to unwind the spine and to make you feel absolutely great. It'll only take a matter of 10-15 minutes. So lay yourselves very carefully down onto your back. Have the feet and the knees about hip distance apart. So just in line with those hip bones, take a moment to establish the natural curve of the lower back until the front edge of the pelvis feels level. Soften around the breastbone and the ribs. Let the back of the neck be long, let the arms just rest on the floor at the side of the body. And from here, just take a moment to establish your breath. In through the nose, out through the nose or the mouth. Take the breath to the fullness of the rib cage and the upper back, without letting it disturb the stillness of the abdominals. So we want to keep a slight corset wrapping around here, feeling that we're just gently drawing ourselves away from the material of our clothing, a slight tensioning that doesn't affect the breath and the breath doesn't affect the tensioning. Going to keep those shoulders relaxed, going to keep the back of the neck long, we're going to keep the pelvis very level and still, hip bones nice and still, and as you breathe out, moving into backstroke. As you breathe out, extend one leg forward and the opposite arm back. Arm just comes to the edge of the eye, bring it back to center, replace very softly, and then change. Working on that diagonal line, looking to just gently open up within the joints, but more than anything, using the arm and the leg to challenge the stillness of the pelvis and the torso. So breathing out as you gently ease away. Notice if those shoulders feel a little crabby. Just see if that eases itself out. Keep those ribs softened. At no point should you feel your ribs pull away from your hips or your hips pull away from your ribs. Those bony landmarks, those distances between those bony landmarks stay exactly the same. Just do that a couple more times. Each time you come back to center, just let the hand rest and place the foot back where it came from. That slight corset still wraps around the center of the body and back to center. Keep the pelvis still, bring your feet and your knees really close together, so it's like you've put both legs in one trouser leg, both feet in one shoe. The pelvis again is going to stay very still, those hips aren't going to move. As you breathe in, leaving your left leg in place, just allow your right knee to open to the side. As you breathe out, bring the leg back to center and change. So hip bones stay still, just rolling gently out onto the outside edge of the leg, the outside edge of the foot, as the leg moves to the side. So imagine if both knees started at 12 o'clock on a clock face. As I move my left knee away to between 11 and 10, my right knee stays at 12. As I move my right knee out to between 1 and 2, my left knee stays at 12. So once again, it's not about getting the knee down to the floor, it's about the mobility that you can create while stabilizing the pelvis. It's called differentiation. Keeping one portion absolutely still whilst challenging that stillness with the movement of another portion. And bring it back to center. Good. Bring the right knee into the chest. Let that back flatten, have a little squeeze and a hug there. Keep the knee in, bring the left leg alongside and just gently massage the back around. Replace the right foot back down to the floor, replace the left foot back down to the floor, place the knees and the heels once more in line with those hip bones. So one of the best movements you'll ever do to mobilise the spine, and it's suitable for pretty much everybody, is shoulder bridge. So we've returned our spine to our natural curve. We've got that slight curve. The shoulders are wide, the back of the neck is still long. As you breathe out, imagining you've got a bowl of water resting on the belly, you're going to imprint your low back and begin to tip your bowl of water over your chest. When you can't tip your water anymore, then pressing evenly down through both feet, just press a little in order to continue the tipping action. So don't forget the tipping action as you continue to roll along the spine. No higher than the base of the shoulder blades. Breastbone and ribs stay low. Really reach out through the front edge of the knees and feel those glutes engage, those hamstrings engage. Take a breath in, and then as you breathe out, once again, trying to roll each vertebra in sequence, tipping that water over the chest. So you get a real feeling of folding the pelvis towards you as you roll up and roll down. Release at the end of the movement, relieving any contraction and returning the spine to neutral. And do it again. So as you breathe out, no immediate pressure down into the feet. There might be a little natural lift of pelvic floor. There'll be a little bit of tone to the inner thighs. You roll that lower back into the mat, tipping the pelvis, that bowl of water over you. Try not to push yourself backwards on your mat so your chin doesn't move, and you shouldn't really hear any rustling around in the hair behind you. And just peel along the spine, a little bit of downward pressure through the feet now, but continue that rolling, tipping action just to the base of the shoulder blades. Stay soft in the ribs and the breastbone. Take a breath in, and then as you breathe out, think of lengthening the spine as you come all the way back down. Try and put a little bit more space between each vertebra as you roll all the way back down, releasing the spine at the end of the movement, returning the spine to its natural curve, level at the front edge of the pelvis, and repeat. So for some of you, it might not work for you to go all the way along the spine, so it's important that you just go as far along the spine as works. Some people will come all the way along to the base of the shoulder blades, some people not so much, and that's okay. You just work within the range that your spine's prepared to give you. But it's generally, for most people, quite a nice movement, quite an acceptable mobilizing movement. Let's do this 2 more times. You should feel like your legs are quite heavily invested in the movement. So as you breathe out, not too much going on through the legs initially. You're going to roll and tip and peel. And when you don't feel you can tip that bowl of water anymore, then again, press straight down, maybe even a slight pull back. You want to feel those hamstrings working, those muscles at the backs of the thighs. Your glutes should be working. Those glute muscles are your main drivers. Soften around the breastbone and the ribs. Take care not to flatten the back of the neck. Breath in, and then as you breathe out again, really focus on the tipping action so you can scoop your way back down. Think of your spine perhaps as being something like a bicycle chain where each link just moves independently of the one above and the one below it. Do that 1 more time. Breathing in to prepare, breathing out to roll that low back in, tipping and curling, pressing evenly through those feet to continue that tipping and curling action. Really reach out through the front edge of the knees, take a breath in, and then as you breathe out, melt it all the way back down. Again, relax those shoulders. Releasing the spine to neutral. Take just a moment, walk the feet as wide as your mat and drop your knees together. Relax the hips, relax the spine. Take just a moment. We're going to go into a double hip roll. So the legs are going to be stacked one on top of each other. So bring your feet back together, and as we did with the single leg hip opener, then bring your feet together as if you had both legs in one trouser leg, both feet in one shoe. Take the arms out wide of the body, turn the palms up. Shoulders are dropped away from the ears. We have that corset wrapping around the center of the body. We're going to keep the shoulders and the back of the upper ribs down on the floor, so there's going to be no lift, no movement from there. As you breathe in, allow both legs to roll over to your left. You're going to roll over onto the outside edge of the left leg, the left foot. so that your right foot stacks on top. It means that your knees stay glued together, your ankle bones stay glued together, your bunions stay glued together. That opposite shoulder, that right shoulder stays right down. And then feel how you have to contract around the waist without pushing heavily into the arms to bring those legs back to center, breathing out. As you come to center and your pelvis becomes balanced, you should immediately return to your natural curve again. Okay, over to the other side. As you breathe in, let both legs roll over to the right side, rolling onto the outside edge of only the right foot. Left leg, left foot sits and stacks directly on top of the right. Everything stays glued together. Remember, both legs in one trouser. As you breathe out, contract slightly to bring it all back to center. Breathing in as you roll over to your left. Onto the outside edge of the left foot. Keep the right shoulder down, the right side of the ribs down. Try not to press into the arms. Bring it back to center. So just move smoothly with the breath. Head stays pretty still. Upper body stays fairly relaxed. Next time you come back to center, if you wish, you could cross the arms over the chest and try this now with the arms over the chest, and just notice whether perhaps you were using your arms at all. Does it feel different to have to do this without any help at all from the upper body? We've slightly narrowed the shoulder girdle by taking the arms off the floor and crossing them over. Can you still keep everything glued together? Feel that slight pull coming out of those lower ribs. Most of this movement is coming from the ribs and not from the low back. The low back doesn't have a huge amount of rotation. And let's just do one more. Just breathing in as the legs move to the side, and breathing out as we gently contract in order to bring them back to center. And release the arms. Take the feet once more to hip distance. Okay, if you need to take a little hug in at any point, then feel free to do so. Otherwise, we're going to go into little heel taps. So keeping the natural curve of the low back, again softening around the upper body. Be prepared for the weight of the legs as you breathe out. You're going to stabilize the pelvis, abdominals slightly engaged, float the right knee directly above your right hip. Now, without being pulled forward, okay, and if you are, then this isn't the movement for you. So in fact, okay, from here, float that foot back down. Feel that little bit of tension as you float on the outward breath, your left knee. Breath in, and then breathe out to place it back down again. So just try that a few times. Just notice that with the weight of one leg, being really mindful about this, you recognize how you have to engage, what you have to do to hold the pelvis level and still, once more keeping those bony landmarks, that constant distance apart. So if this feels like it's enough, then stay with that. Don't go any further. And for those of you that like the challenge, have no issues through the low back, then add on. Breathing out to float up. So again, you could put that down and change sides, just go into an alternate. Keeping that same position without allowing the back to flex or flatten. As you breathe out, you're going to float the right leg alongside, the left leg alongside. So keep those abdominals engaged around, keep those shoulders relaxed. So we want to keep those ribs down, want to keep those abdominals engaged. From here, as you breathe out, just place the right foot back down, place the left foot back down. So just notice the weight in those legs. If you do this really mindfully, this should not feel easy. You do need to be super careful of what's happening around your low back. If you feel that you're being pulled, certainly when that second leg comes up, then there's a couple of things you can do. Go back to doing the single up, down until you feel much stronger. Or until you are a little stronger, as you float, that second leg, okay, just before you float the second leg, slightly draw your low back. Don't jam it, but slightly draw your lower back down to the floor. So there's a very slight pull of the pubic bone in the pelvis towards you to then float the second leg alongside. Keep that slightly lower arch in the back as you replace back down, as you replace back down. And then eventually you should get to the point where you actually don't need to do that. But that's another option. If you feel that you're somewhere between doing the first portion, maybe you're feeling that that's a little bit too easy now, or the second movement where we're bringing both legs up, then maybe that's a little halfway house for you if you need to. Okay, so let's do that again a couple more times. So take the modifications you need to take, keep those abdominals engaged. As you breathe out, float. As you breathe out, float. As you breathe out, float back down. As you breathe out, float back down. Every portion of the movement is done with control. Changing the lead leg, so I'm lifting my left leg. Breathing out, relaxing my shoulders, no pressure into my arms. Keeping my pelvis level and still, I'm floating my right leg. I'm floating my left leg back down. I'm floating my right leg back down. Okay, so stick with any of those, but we're going to add on again. So as you breathe out, if this works for you, float. Be prepared for the extra weight. Modify if you need to. Float. Now flex those feet. So I've got about a 90-degree angle in my knee. Thereabouts. It's not exact science. It's about 90 degrees. I've got a 90-degree angle, or thereabouts, at my hip. I'm not going to change the angle at my knee. I am going to change the angle of my hip. So what I'm going to do is take my right heel, touch down to the floor, then bring it back up without moving my left leg. And then change. So down and up. What I like to do here sometimes is to place my palms against my thighs so that as my thigh moves away from my hand, I don't feel my other leg pulling into me, okay? And then back up and change. So my hand stays in place, the pressure doesn't change against it other than the fact that the thigh moves away from it. And maybe as you do this, your heel doesn't go all the way down to the floor. Maybe you get to the point where it feels a little too heavy, then bring it back. And you can work in a portion of the movement if necessary. Let's just do a couple more of these. As I say, modify with those previous levels. And then bring it back to center. Hug it in. Have a little stretch and self-massage. From here, roll yourself all the way over onto your tummy. So one foot down, then the other. Roll all the way around onto your tummy. Okay. So we're going to just work with a little spinal raise from behind the breastbone. My feet and my legs are going to stay down on the floor, nice and heavy. One hand on top of the other, forehead onto the hands, shoulders wide and drawn down. And I want to just elongate my low spine. So I'm going to press down into the front edge of my pelvis, into my hip creases and my pubic bone. And that's just going to keep some length into my lower back. Just going to take my glasses off. So, adding to that a slight corset. As I breathe out, without pressing into my arms, I'm going to slide my breastbone forward and gently lift from behind my breastbone. My lower ribs stay down on the floor, the back of my neck stays long, and I'm going to breathe in to lower back down again. So breathing out as I slide the breastbone forward, and breathe in to lower. So reaching the breastbone through, pressing down to the front edge of the pelvis, keeping my lower back feeling soft. I don't want to feel compression or discomfort there. And I'm definitely not pressing with my arms. I'm only coming to the base of my ribs. Trying to just work that area around the upper back. If you feel you are working with your arms, you're maybe pressing down, there's a couple of things you can do. You can either take your hands onto your low back. That can sometimes give you an idea of whether you're keeping some elongation in the low back as well. Or you might want to add a little bit more weight into it. I wouldn't advise you add too much weight into it, there's no need. Shoulders away, pressing down to the front edge of the pelvis, but perhaps allowing the arms to come up. Again, taking great care to maintain that length in the back of the neck. In these sort of exercises, your eye line should travel slightly forward on your mat rather than up the wall in front. That would just compress your neck. So again, you could take away the opportunity to press into the hands by pressing into the front of the pelvis, by gliding the breastbone forward, by sliding the shoulder blades down at the back edge of the body, just with the hands resting on the back. Abdominals continue to draw in. Let's do that 3 more times. I actually didn't count, but I think this might be 3. And then release. Just let the forehead rest again onto the hands, maybe shrug the shoulders, maybe give the hips a little rock from side to side, and then come up onto the hands and the knees and give the back a little stretch out. So just pressing away through that low back, tucking the tail under, shoulders away from the ears, maybe softening the chin in. Great. Okay. Lay yourself all the way down onto your side. So bending both knees, placing the heels in line with your bottom, and taking your underlying arm and folding it in half so that your head is going to be well supported on the arm and into the hand. So I've got my shoulder over my shoulder, my hip over my hip. I'm slightly pressing away to get that lift and length in the waist. Abdominals still engaged. Top hand just comes behind the head. So as I breathe in, I'm going to lift my elbow up to the ceiling. I'm going to let my head roll along my arm to be caught into my hands and rotate my ribs. And then breathe in back to center. Now, if you're at home and you've got a cushion or a pillow, you might want to use that instead of your arm, but I'm just using my arm here because you can use that anywhere then, doesn't matter where you are. So breathing in, lift the elbow up, allow the ribs to turn, keep those knees together, those hips stacked, don't let yourself pull backwards, and just allow your head to be well supported as you rotate, and then bring it back to center. So we're looking to get that little bit of rotation from those ribs. And if you think about it, this is exactly opposite of what we did before when we did those double leg rolls. When we did that, we allowed both knees to move over to the side. We rolled across the back of the pelvis and we kept the upper body absolutely still. Now we've reversed that, so we're keeping the lower body completely still, and now we're moving from our upper body. So we're working into our thoracic rotation. Works nicely with that extension we've just done as well. So just moving with the head being held into the hands. And let's do that again. And you may find that as you do this, those ribs seem to give a little. Just do one more. And then bring it back to center. Okay. So we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So carefully push up. Either turn yourself over or turn yourself around. So once again, I'm using my folded arm to support my head, so that as I roll back, my head will be caught in my hand, rather than feeling that my head's bumping on and off my arm. Or again, you could use a pillow or a cushion if you're at home doing this. So the other hand comes just up. We've got our knees stacked, our hips stacked, our heels are in line with the bottom. Going to breathe in to lift the elbow up. Think about lengthening out that waist, slightly engaging those abdominals. And we're going to let the ribs roll back and then bring it back to center. Should feel like a gentle, pleasant, ringing sensation. You don't need to let that top arm go too far. It's not about overstretching through the front of the chest. And in fact, when your ribs stop turning, stop moving the arm because you're not really gaining anything at all from that. I'm going to make the next one the last one. Nice gentle ringing sensation. Once again, just keep those hips stacked, just as if you had the back of the pelvis against a wall. And then back to center. Lovely. From here, press yourself up. And again, go back onto the hands and the knees and just give the spine a little bit of a stretch out again. Yourself back to center. Have a seat. So, this is one of my favourite stretches in the world ever. It's not going to suit everybody, so if you've got any knee issues, this might not work for you. If I turn side on, I'm going to just cross my legs. It doesn't have to be a really tight cross. You can have a much looser cross if necessary. Just going to cross my legs, okay? Going to sit up nice and tall, so the bones of my bum firmly pressing down into the floor. Fingertips come forward, and as I breathe out, without tipping forward, I'm just going to bring myself into my lap. Shoulders wide, just let yourself snuggle down. Feel how that opens up through the back edge of the pelvis. If you feel any discomfort in the knees here, then obviously you need to just adjust your position. Let the breath move to the back of the body so you feel yourself really expanding as you breathe in. Your belly can be soft here. And then with the hands, walk back, restack the spine, bring it all the way back up. Okay, give the legs a little shake out in front. And then change the cross of the legs. So I find this a lot more awkward because this is my replaced knee, so it's a little bit more difficult. So we've all got those things that don't quite work as well as they should. So do modify if you need to. And as I say, if necessary, you could take the legs further forward. You could even go into a prayer position if that works better for you, with the soles of the feet together. Doesn't have to be a tight, like, cross-legged position. Sit up nice and tall. As you breathe out, just let yourself come forward. Let yourself gently round over. Let the shoulders be wide. Let the back of the neck be long. And just feel yourself snuggling in a little. So you want to drop some of the tension that tends to sit around the back of the pelvis, the lower back, and in my case here, the left side of my hip. And then just walk the hands back. Use the hands for a little bit of support. Come all the way up. Lovely. And then take those legs forward. So, we're going to do a little soft C curl, okay? We're not going to do a full roll down. It's not suitable for everybody. I'm not going to do it on this video, but this will be enough, okay? So, with the body lifted, take the hands behind the thighs. Feet can be down, they don't have to be flat. You can be on your heels if you're necessary, but do keep your heels in contact with the floor. Sit nice and tall, get the shoulders away from the ears, retract the chin and lift up through the crown of the head. Engage up through pelvic floor and wrap your corset. Think of that corset wrapping around those abdominals, slightly tightening. As you breathe out, just start to lean back a little and then fold into the back of the pelvis. So it's the same movement that we do in shoulder bridge. It's that feeling of lifting the pubic bone up. The chin just softens in, try not to push your head, and don't be too heavy with your hands. Take a breath in when you don't feel like you can scoop yourself anymore, and as you breathe out, keeping the scoop, come forward, and then from here, think about restacking the spine all the way up, because that's the important thing, the way we can contract those spinal muscles to stack the spine all the way back up from the base to the crown. So again, as you breathe out, just lean a little and then roll off the bones of your bum to the back edge onto the sacrum. You feel that shortening aspect at the front edge of the body, relaxed around the head, the shoulders, the neck. The chin is slightly softened in. When you can't scoop anymore as you would in shoulder bridge, then just let yourself come forward. Try to use this not so much from the hands, but more from the muscles. You want to feel like your muscles are drawing you through rather than feel like you're dragging yourself through. And if you feel that you are using your hands too much, or you don't want to use your hands at all, just take the arms forward. Do the same thing with the arms forward. So just move away, roll away into that scoop. Shoulders relax, relax that neck, slightly soften the chin. Take a breath in as you breathe out. Keep that rounding long curve, and then from here think about restacking each vertebra in sequence all the way up. Just one more time. And bring it all the way back up. Up nice and tall. Okay. This movement is the exact movement we started with, but from seated. So we're doing a seated backstroke, okay? Imagine that you have your back against a wall. Imagine you can recreate the same curves of your neck, your lower spine that you had when you're standing, when you're lying, okay? It's more difficult when you're seated, but do what you can. All right, and be right up onto the bones of your bum. Right up onto the bones of your bum. Take the arms forward, drop the shoulders away from the ears. As you breathe out, extend one leg forward and lift the opposite arm up, bring it back to center, breathing in. As you breathe out, extend away, arm and opposite leg. Those abdominals continue to wrap around. Use those spinal muscles to really hold you up tall. Remember, we don't need to take those arms past the corner of the eye. So just lifting up, sliding the shoulder down. Trying not to lean backwards. Now, pause for a moment. Did you feel yourself leaning backwards? Did you feel yourself going back? Then what you can do is sit yourself against a wall. I'm almost out of shot, but I think you probably still see me. Okay, so sit yourself against a wall. Get the back of your pelvis against the base of the wall. Okay, the back of the head against the wall, the shoulders against the wall, and then try it again. And just notice how it feels when you put yourself against the wall. It'll feel hard on the thighs, and the hamstrings will have to work quite hard. The more relaxed you are in the hamstrings, the higher the leg will go. It's not about getting the leg high, it's about being able to extend the leg away without falling and leaning backwards. So again, keeping that very upright stance. As you breathe out, extending away, arm and opposite leg. You could, if you wanted to, think about bringing both arms up. That can sometimes get this feeling of pulling you up away from the slouch. Just do that a couple more times. Using the wall for support if you need to, and then bringing it back to center and just letting yourself come forward over your legs. And all the way back up. Okay, so finishing there with the same movement that we started from, but in a different plane. It's a little bit more challenging. Do feel free to modify, to use the wall if you feel you need that little bit of feedback. It gives you great feedback. But hopefully the little program there that you can do just to ease yourself out and just give yourself a few minutes at home just on your own practice. Enjoy. Any questions? Let me know.